Right, so the BBC just put out a new documentary called Gaza: How to Survive a War Zone. Of course, we already know just by looking at this title that this is going to be a biased documentary that makes it out like it's just the Arabs of Gaza are victimized, they're the underdog, totally ignoring the fact that this war that started on October 7th was ignited by the elected government of Gaza with the widespread support of the people of Gaza. And that's, of course, not to say that there are, of course, innocent people that are going to get caught up in this conflict, but no doubt they will have no idea about where to apportion the moral accountability and blame. And David Collier, an investigative journalist, has provided proof that the BBC documentary has become a propaganda tool of Hamas. Look at this thread, okay? So this is what he wrote. We need to talk about the BBC Two documentary last night about children surviving the war in Gaza. A co-producer was a Palestinian activist, and one of the cameramen the BBC had hired in Gaza had saluted October 7th, okay? This is what he said on October 7th. This is Amjad al-Fayyoumi, right? He salutes the flood of, in other words, saluting what occurred on October 7th. A lot of the content was clearly staged, and the star of the show was a young Gazan boy called Abdullah. Abdullah is from one of the Gaza's affluent families, and he narrates the hour-long documentary. Now, we need to go back to a Channel 4 news piece from November 2023. We are introduced to a young lad called Abdullah, the same Abdullah the BBC used. Channel 4 give his name as Abdullah Abu Shamala and introduce us to his father. Have a watch.
Back in Khan Yunis, Abdullah and his father, also members of the extended Abu Shamala family, wander through the destruction in the neighborhood. Who wouldn't be terrified living here?
We try to calm ourselves down with words like, I'm still young and I have future, and I still have a future to do, and I don't want to die. I repeat these words constantly to calm myself down. I'm basically lying to myself.
Okay, but here is where it gets interesting, as David Collier reports. That is not his name, and the man in the video is not his father. Someone lied to Channel 4. In fact, the name of the man playing the father in the video is Khalil Abu Shamala. He is the director of a PFLP linked to anti-Israel propaganda NGO called Al-Damir. This full-time activist was no doubt on site orchestrating whatever nonsense Channel 4 was being fed. It included pretending to be Abdullah's father. The two people are related though. I searched Facebook and found Shamala posting about his nephew. It's a video from 2022 and shows that they had Abdullah in training to be a child propagandist for years. But it also gave me his real name, Abdullah Ayman Eliazuri. Okay? And with that name, I could dig further. I found a post that connected the Shamala and Eliazuri clans. It was likely I now had Abdullah's father, Ayman Eliazuri. Okay? And sure enough, on Ayman's timeline was plenty of references to his son, Abdullah. He's a very good investigative journalist, David. And then things start to be very clear, because Abdullah, the BBC narrator, his father, is an official in the Hamas government. He currently holds the position of Deputy Minister of Agriculture, but has held official positions in education and planning. He is the father of Abdullah, the person who the BBC let demonize Israel for 60 minutes at an event in full Hamas gear. The naivety, stupidity, and arrogance of our media has allowed Palestinian propagandists to turn our legacy channels into foolish outlets blindly spouting Hamas lies 24/7. Here is a post from Abdullah's father praising Hamas terrorists who murdered 4 Israelis in June 2023. Unbelievable. In Gaza, you do not achieve a position of power, i.e. head of a hospital, head of anything, unless your clan has factional weight. The same is true here. Ibrahim al-Yazuri was a founder of Hamas alongside Sheikh Yassin. On February 11, 2021, Ibrahim al-Yazuri died of coronavirus. And sure enough, on the 11th of February 2021, the father of our BBC narrator posted a family mourning message for a founder of the Hamas terrorist group. A few days before this, he had explicitly called him the head of the clan, which means both Ayman and his son Abdullah are 100% Hamas royalty. The two photographers followed these children around for months. They absolutely knew who he was. Did either of the producers? How did the BBC let a son of a Hamas minister walk around looking for sympathy and demonizing Israel for an hour in a BBC documentary? The BBC is publishing Hamas propaganda. We have proof now, and he has more detail and a few extra pieces in his article. And of course, do consider supporting David Collier so he can continue his work. You can find him on Twitter. But I think now, in case it wasn't already clear to you, the assumption that because you are the mainstream media, you are the BBC, that you therefore are the arbiters of truth, I think we can now throw that notion out the window. We're seeing the same thing with great institutions, the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, Harvard, Penn, Columbia. It seems that the elite institutions are revealing their moral bankruptcy. By the way, this has been going on for a very long time with the BBC. There was actually a report done, an internal report done into the BBC called the Balin Report, done I think like 20 years ago by someone called Malcolm Balin. And the BBC spent nearly £500,000, I believe, to try and suppress it from being published. And the report has never been published. Because if it was published, I have no doubt that it would prove the clear bias that they had against Israel. It's the same thing that was proved recently in Trevor Assassin, the lawyer who did a thorough report and dossier into the BBC's coverage of Israel. And he found, both through using artificial intelligence means and manual means, that there was a clear discrepancy between the way Israel was treated and covered and Hamas and Gaza was covered. And now we see that it's not just difference in reporting, but it's actually complicity with Hamas. And so I think, much as it is disturbing to see this, at the very least it's giving us the chance to have a bit of a wake-up call and to really question the sources of information that we utilize.
Thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.